Good evening and welcome to Access Iowa City, a program about the independent living and disability rights movement in southeastern Iowa. Access Iowa City is brought to you by a generous contribution from the Noon Pilots Club of Johnson County and collaborations between the Extended Dream Foundation, Access to Independence, and the Center for Disabilities and Development, as well as the hard-working folks here at Public Access Television Channel 18. I'm Terry Cunningham, President of the Board of Directors of Access to Independence, Vice Chair of the Johnson County Mental Health and Disability Services Planning Council, and an individual who's lived with a significant disability for over 41 years. Tonight, we have part 2 of our show with our friend Todd Lang from, I just blanked, Dubuque. Let's start that little piece over. Consumer Advocacy. I forgot the name of.
Oh, Office of Consumer
Office
Affairs.
of Consumer Affairs. Jeez. Okay. The Office of Consumer Affairs. So welcome, Todd, and as always, my co-host Keith Ruff.
Thank you.
We left off as you were getting ready to tell us a bit more of what the Office of Consumer Affairs delves into more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go ahead.
Sure, Terry. So, as I said earlier, the Office of Consumer Affairs is to give a voice to people with lived experience and family members. So, what does that mean? What do we do? One thing we do is we act as a referral agency to people who are looking for resources in local communities. So I work as the director with 5 regional coordinators throughout the state, and we take calls, email inquiries from people in recovery, family members, and people with disabilities looking for resources in their local communities, because sometimes people can become very isolated or are not aware of the resources available in their local communities. So we do our best to provide them with ideas, with contacts, or refer them on to other organizations who might be better suited to help them with the needs that they have. We also do one-on-one problem solving. And the cool thing is that I work with 5 really dedicated people that all sort of have their own almost sort of specialty. So we can work as a team too and really work to people's strengths to really try to help people out. Another thing that we've done is we've gotten involved with state policy, because the Office of Consumer Affairs is contracted through the Iowa Department of Human Services. So we've also been involved with the Department of Human Services to provide them feedback on what we've been learning throughout our work, connecting with people in the local communities. And I had mentioned previously, each of these 5 regions also has an advisory committee. So we're also having an ongoing dialogue with our advisory committee and receiving good input from them as far as the needs that they see in their local communities or opportunities and programs that are occurring. And sometimes it's new facilities or new programs that are starting that we find out through our advisory committee members. So it's a really cool exchange where we can provide information to them about what's going on at the state level, and they in turn provide input to us about what's going on at local communities.
Todd, since the office has opened, do you find many mental health agencies responding to the office in a positive manner?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Keith, about sort of our interactions, especially with mental health agencies throughout the state. And at least the first 6 months and easily the first year was a lot of relationship building, getting out in the local communities and meeting with the staff from various agencies.
Yeah.
And we've received, a variety of receptions. There's been some people that have been really open to talk about us And other people, other organizations that might have been a little more hesitant until they learned more about what we did as an organization to really understand what we're trying to do with our mission. But it's been a really good and a learning experience over the last year to year and a half to build those relationships and those connections. And sometimes, as Terry had said in the previous show, with the idea of volunteering, you never know who you're going to meet. And for us as the Office of Consumer Affairs, going out on the road, we never knew what kind of connections we were going to make with agencies, with advocates, but it's really helped to grow kind of this network and help interconnect us more. And I'll give you a really brief example. In my previous work with the Iowa Advocates, for whatever reason, we could never make a connection with Southeast Iowa, like in the Burlington area, the Quad Cities, and farther south. But through our work with the Office of Consumer Affairs, it really gave us that opportunity to connect more. So it's really been good from that aspect, the people and the organizations we've connected with in Southeast Iowa over the last year and a half.
Okay. Before I forget this, is this a fee-for-service type thing, or is this people go in and any assistance they get is funded by a grant, or just how does that work?
We, Terry, are funded by federal block grant money, so we're grant funded through the Office of Consumer Affairs. So if people approach us, it's for no fee, and we'll help them and try to do as much as we can as an organization. But most certainly, if it's a situation that really isn't in our realm of expertise, we'll refer them to another agency or organization or individual who'd be better able to help them.
Okay. So if someone went to one of your district people, kind of walk us through what it, now that we've already established there is no typical thing. Somebody comes in with a problem, kind of walk us through what would happen there.
So what could happen, Terry, is sometimes it's face-to-face contact through maybe the course of a public meeting or a group or a phone call or an email. So it just depends on the way they contact us. And then either in person or maybe on the phone or even via email, because we try to meet people where they are, is to have a conversation and really determine what they're looking for, what their needs are, and have that conversation and really see what we can do to help them. So it could be a variety of things. It might be somebody who's looking for housing or having problems with housing, or maybe reaching out for support and looking for a local support group. We've also had people who have been going to college and might be seeking, educational resources, maybe financial aid or things of that nature. So we've come across a variety of circumstances where people's needs have been different. I guess the key thing is we try to meet people where they're at and try to understand what they're looking for and really listen to them, and throughout the course of that conversation really get a good understanding of what exactly it is they're looking for. And sometimes people might not even be sure initially what they're looking for. They just might be in a spot where they know they need help. And then through talking to them, we get a better idea, of what their needs are and what they're looking for.
It sounds a lot like the local independent living center. We don't charge a fee, and we help people achieve what they want to achieve within limits.
Yeah, so like the independent living centers,
Yeah.
it's really built on, I would like to say, the strength of peer support, where
Yeah.
people have common experiences and have been in situations similar, although not the same, but can definitely understand and really know, or really be a helping hand. Because I think some of the best system navigators are people who have been through the system, right?
Oh, sure.
Because they understand kind of like the hoops you have to go through and the different challenges with accessing different services or getting different types of help.
because they have the empathy a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, that's really important, is that idea of empathy and really understanding and really listening. I think that's the key thing,
Yes.
is to really listen to what the person is saying.
So then, are there actually 5 physical offices around the state, or do these folks kind of work from their home, or?
We're a pretty flexible operation, Terry. People work out of their own homes, but we also travel. You know, we've met people in local gathering places, attended state meetings, done work over the internet or the phone, so we try to be as flexible as possible.
So if somebody wants to find you, how do they find you?
We have a brochure that lists all the information on ways to contact us. Myself and all the regional coordinators have phone numbers. We also have email addresses. We have a website, ocaiowa.org, and we have a Facebook page. So there's a variety of ways people can contact us.
But that's after they find out you exist.
Right, and that's the challenge, you know, is getting the word out there and making
Okay.
those contacts.
Right, that's always the challenge.
Mhm.
We're here to help.
Right.
Come find us.
And that's really what we've been doing over the first year to year and a half, is going out to local communities and really making those contacts and making organizations, individuals aware that we exist and what we do.
So how many contacts have you had over the year and a half that you've been operating then?
That's a good question, because we've just ended our first year and a half contract. I don't know the exact number, but we're trying to do a good job of really keeping track of contacts, because we have individual contacts, you know, and we've had quite a few of those, you know, well over 100. I'm not sure the exact number, but also in group situations too, because we, through email contact, also we've gone to local communities and we've attended support groups where we've given presentations. And also the conference was another good example, where we had almost 250 individuals there. You know,
Cool.
so we're trying to do a better idea of really kind of tabulating all the different ways we're kind of reaching out and making those contacts with people.
Interesting.
What do you foresee in the future to facilitate that even more?
So in the future, one important thing I think we can do as the OCA is continue to go out to local communities. And I've been working with my regional coordinators, and we've been trying to make a really concerted effort to reach out to communities and to network. So if we go to a local community, get resources and referrals that we can use in the future to build more relationships. And one thing is also to use the internet more too, through our website, through our Facebook page, to promote that more, because that's one way we can really reach out to people, because it's always a challenge, you know, with 99 counties and trying to cover the state, and especially with a lot of rural areas in Iowa that are harder to get to and get that consistent contact with. So I'd say in the future, those are different ways, Keith, we want to try to reach out and educate people about what we do.
Todd, Jerry, and I have noticed over the years that people with disabilities usually migrate to metropolitan areas to get what they need. Do you notice that with the mental health?
That certainly happens with the idea of people who are trying to get services or going to larger areas in the state. That's definitely happening. I know, you know, in Iowa City, I've seen that, and in Dubuque. And also what we're seeing in Dubuque is we're right next door to Illinois and Wisconsin. And those parts of Illinois and Wisconsin are really rural. So we even see people coming across the river to get help. But still at the same time, we still have people in rural communities who just don't have the means or for whatever reason are staying in their local communities. And that's just still such a huge challenge, you know, to reach those people.
I think the biggest challenge over the years that I've found is a lot of local Iowans will say we can take care of our own. And they fail to realize that if they did ask for help, it would be a lot easier on everyone.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know, that's always a struggle too, because you definitely want people to stay connected as much as they can and use as many sort of natural or community supports. But one issue we see is that a lot of people in recovery have, for whatever reason, lost contact with friends or family over the course of the years and really have gotten disconnected, you know. So that's kind of almost like a double-edged sword, you know, because you want to have that connection, but sometimes that's really hard to maintain.
Sure. What are the eligibility requirements for somebody to get your assistance?
We, Terry,
Or are
don't
there?
have any strict eligibility requirements. I mean, we definitely have an open door, and you know, we'll talk to anyone and kind of go from there and really see if we're the right fit, and if we aren't, we will you know, make every effort to point those people in the right direction and get them connected to a better resource.
So that if there's someone who knows that you have somebody in the area, they don't have to worry about having any kind of a mental health issue. If it's somebody with an intellectual disability or, you know, a physical issue, they can come and talk to you, and even if you can't provide the service, you can help with the referral to maybe get them connected with somebody else.
Yeah, that's right, Terry. I mean, we definitely don't want to exclude anyone, but obviously, you know, there's certain things that we're not as well equipped to do as other organizations in the state. So definitely to help them, you know, connect with individuals or organizations that really can help them.
Sure, sure. And, you know, we all stay in our little specialty areas, but I think it's really helpful for folks to know if they don't know where to go,
Right.
you're an option. I mean, there's not nearly enough centers for independent living across the state to do that. You know, unfortunately, the community mental health centers are dwindling quickly, and as you say, with the smaller areas and communities in Iowa, there frequently isn't somebody to talk to. And people get nervous or uncomfortable going in, you know, to a stranger anyway, but going into a stranger and say, hey, this is the problem I'm having. Are you the one I need to talk to about it? Or could you direct me to the right agency?
Because if they don't get that kind of help, usually that attitude I mentioned a little while ago takes hold, where they tend to want to take care of themselves without help. And that can be just as bad as no help at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, you know, is really trying to connect with people and really show them that there's people out there that care and there's resources that are out there, because sometimes, you know, people have been so isolated or they've been traumatized or have bad experiences in the past that they're much more reluctant really to reach out and really see the need, you know, or that there are people or opportunities out there.
Anything else with Office of Consumer Affairs we we want to touch on before we switch gears a little?
Mental health and disability services redesign. I don't know if that's where we were going.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be a good segue,
If
Terry.
there's anything you want to cover yet here on Office of Consumer Affairs that we haven't touched on?
No, I
there
think
will be information on the screen at the end of the show for.
no,
So,
I think we did a good job of covering what the OCA is about, and I think this
Okay.
would be a good transition right now.
okay. Well, hopefully as many people, if not most Iowans over the last year or so, have heard about the mental health and disability services redesign process that's been going on, and last summer they had 5 or 6 different groups who met to discuss the redesign of the commission or the system, with the state taking over what the Medicaid services that counties had been paying, and how that's going to be phased in, and counties forming groups and all that stuff. And I know you've been involved in that somewhat, and maybe we can talk a little about it, shed a little bit of light, although the common answer is we have to wait and see.
That's always a good stock answer for
Yes,
some of these
yes.
questions. But I'll just give you sort of how the OCA has become involved in this process,
Okay.
just to give kind of a little bit of background. So as you talked about, Terry, the process of the mental health and disability services redesign started in the legislative session last year, where they did 2 things. They rescinded the county's ability to use property tax revenue to pay for part of the disability system, effective on June 30th of 2013. That was sort of the stick, and the carrot was there was legislation that formed work groups to start the process of the redesign, which is an ongoing process, but a lot happened this year. So if I could just kind of go back to last summer, probably right around the end of July, the beginning of August. This is after the last legislative session. They started to form work groups. One thing that happened, and I remember I was with another Todd who I work with, I think I was in Mount Pleasant, and we had just gotten the information on the work groups that were forming. And the work groups that formed, like you talked about, to cover different parts of the disabilities and redesign system, didn't have a lot of representation from family members or people with lived experience. So the OCA and other advocates lobbied to have that voice brought in. And since then, there have been monthly meetings between advocacy groups and the Department of Human Services. And also there were regional meetings, listening sessions. So we had 10 of those with over 1,000 people attending. So we really advocated to bring that voice in to the process. And it's been a struggle, and it's been an ongoing challenge, but I think people have been more engaged in the process. So what happened over the last legislative session is they passed the legislation, and the governor signed it into law about a month ago. And what is going to happen in the near future is we're going to have some work groups form to go through the next step of the disabilities and mental health system redesign, which will include the idea of regions, which you mentioned, Terry. So the idea of going from a county-based region or system to regional systems, and also to do the ongoing work of defining core services and making sure that services are more widely available throughout the state. So those are 2 key things, is the idea of regions and core services, and also that county property tax revenue will still be used. That was one thing that was decided in the course of the legislative session.
Well, and we are a talkative little group today, and we've run out of time for this session, so we're going to have you back again so we can further discuss mental health redesign. And
Sure.
Keith and I happen to have a meeting of the Johnson County Mental Health Disability Services Planning Council later this afternoon, so we'll pick up a little more on that.
Okay.
But we certainly want to thank you for your coming and making 2 great shows for us. we'll schedule a time when we can get you back.
Yeah, love the opportunity.
I want to thank the folks out there watching. And thank you, Keith.
Yeah, thank you for anytime. Good night, guys.
Have a good evening.